Hi, we're back with our panel discussing the late-breaking clinical trials and new innovations presented here at ACC.10 I2 Summit 2010. I'm going to ask you all, we're early in this meeting, but the thing that people always want to know, are there some important things that you think we're going to learn that they could take home, put into their practice immediately, that will change their practice? Tony, what do you think? I'll start with you.
Well, I'm intrigued to see the results of the study that looks at the value of genetic testing in patients who are going to receive warfarin.
Okay.
As you know, the cytochrome P450 system is very important in terms of whether patients are hyper-responders or hypo-responders. The hyper-responders, of course, at risk for bleeding, hypo for clotting. And this is a study where the patients have been genetically tested for whether or not they're in one of those groups, and then followed along to see if warfarin administration based upon that genetic knowledge makes a difference. And I'm really looking forward to the results of that study.
Tony, do you think, is this something, again, with the theme of taking information and putting into practice, you're optimistic that this would be something that we could shortly incorporate into our practices?
I really do, Randy. There's companies that are set up to render this kind of genetic information, and if it's of value, if it proves to be of value, I think it's a test that physicians
Peter's
could
scowling
get.
over here. What are you scowling? Don't scowl at me.
An interesting thing happened yesterday, and the FDA came out with this black box warning about clopidogrel. And part of what they said was, if you genetically test your patients, you might be able to figure out whether they're going to be more or less responsive to clopidogrel. Well, I can understand that, but first off, it takes 30 days to do the genetic testing. Number one.
Well,
Number
it has, but it does
hopefully
not
that will be
necessarily.
more. But the second issue is, of course, how much is all this going to cost? So if every patient that you put on Plavix is going to have genetic testing, every patient that's put on warfarin is going to have genetic testing, what's that going to do to the cost of all this?
But avoid one stroke. Avoid one stroke, and you make a lot of money.
Well, the question is,
this is a Senate hearing. Thank you, Senator. I like that. Thank you very much. Okay, Athena, let me get you in the middle of this economic debate.
Maybe a little less controversial. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of good lifelong learning that's been put into the program, so I'm excited about that people can come and you can do a lot of your credits for recredentialing. So from that standpoint, I think you can come to the meeting and almost be ready to get your boards recertified, which is really nice.
So that'd be very important. So Peter, what could people take home and put into their practice?
Well, one of the trials we didn't mention earlier is the Navigator trial, and that's coming out as well today. And the whole concept of how we take care of diabetics, I think, is going to be a lot of this meeting, and we'll learn a lot more about how better to do that. The nateglinide and valsartan issue in the Navigator trial both lower postprandial glucose. Now, is that a good thing to do or not? And I guess we'll find out from the results of Navigator. If it turns out that valsartan and nateglinide are good drugs for diabetics and keep them from getting more diabetes as they go forward, that would be a major thing to learn about. We just don't know the answers to these. And the whole business of diabetes, how to take care of diabetic patients, how to keep patients from getting diabetes, important issues that will be confronted here.
I think we're seeing more overlap with that. There's so many areas, tight glycemic control perioperatively in the ICU and the CCU, that we really need more of this data.
Diabetics are increasing in our practice. I mean, obviously, with the society. Tony?
One thing I think potentially is actionable, Randy, is there's going to be a lot of huge registry data on left main stenting.
Okay.
And, we're right at the cusp with left main stenting as to whether we go forward with that or it remains a surgical indication. And I think these data could influence us on that.
So you're giving me a nice segue, because we're talking about major trials, but are there other things, and you just mentioned the left main, are there other things that are going to be going on that you think people might want to be paying attention to, just off the top of your brain from the just in the meeting as you've looked at it? Other things that people, the audience, should look at? Anybody?
There's
Ferris Bueller. Anybody?
Well, there's going to be a lot of sub-studies on the newer agents like ticagrelor, and we're going to get more and more information about where they may fit in terms of our therapeutic regimens.
I think Tony's right. For the PCI folks, how we deal with the antithrombin agents, how we deal with the antiplatelet agents is going to be another area that's going to be discussed in great detail. We probably will come away with some good information about some of the newer agents, finally. Everyone's been wondering whether they're going to be worthwhile.
Absolutely. Athena, anything comes to mind?
Well, I think some of the overlap of the different imaging modalities. We talk about multimodality imaging and how to choose. We don't have randomized data, but I think having these expert consensus can really be useful to go back and make those decisions, in your own hospital.
And we're going to have to. We're going to have to do that as practices go and as people are looking at imaging. Well, we want to thank all of you because I think we see now that the 59th annual session of the ACC meeting is off and running. And this team is going to be providing you with in-depth analysis and one-on-one interviews with the lead investigators. And you're going to want to hear from them. So we urge you to keep watching. Thanks very much.